Hello everyone, I'm Hafiz.
And I'm Parkson.
We are the fathers behind the podcast We Are Dads Too. We discuss everything from being an effective father to a good co-parent to our spouse.
We also have guests and experts on our show to talk about the different aspects of fatherhood. Come and join us to discover more about our experiences as fathers because
We are Dads Too. Click on the link below to follow us on Spotify.
Welcome back to We Are Dads Too podcast. Today we have a guest who is very well known in Singapore because he is none other than Bryan Tan, the CEO of the Center for Fathering. One and only Bryan Tan and and only Center for Fathering. Welcome, Bryan, and
Bryan.
Good morning to you.
Hi, morning, Paksan and Hafiz. Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Well,
this is the most difficult person I can we can get.
Why is it so?
Alright? Especially quite recently when he's been very busy.
Oh yes,
And that's the reason why we call him.
yeah.
All of
and,
us actually are
he
qualified.
hasn't been sleeping well
Yeah. Actually, all of us are qualified to talk about this, but he's the most qualified.
because his is the most recent experience.
Yes.
Not only the most recent, this is not the first time for him.
Yes.
This is
And
number
what's it all
4.
about? First time. What's this all about?
Well,
Watson?
being a new father.
Ah,
We're
okay, I
talking
thought
about
something
new
else.
fathers this morning, today. Today's episode is about being a new father. And what better way than to hear from a new father himself, and not only for the first time, but for the
Fourth time. you reached my record, so should break it.
Do I have to catch up? No, right?
I don't know. Can you?
No, I don't want to.
I
Too
don't know.
old already.
Let me get proficient with the fourth, and then I'll consider the fifth and possibly the sixth.
Well, at least there's hope.
Okay. Wow, you are really. I think the Singapore government loves you.
Yeah, no wonder you're the you're the
Poster
CEO.
child.
No, the CEO. Yeah, the poster child. Yes, for fathering.
Okay, well, let's start with this question. I think it's an easy question. When do you think fathering begins?
I used to think that I become a father when my child is born. So I remember with my first child, on the day that my child is born, I remember somebody came in and said, Happy Father's Day. And it didn't connect with me for a while until I realized that, oh yes, when my child is born, I become a father. But on hindsight, now with this most recent child, or even with my third child, what I came to realize is during the birth of the child, I'm reminded of a couple of things, and one of them is really the sanctity of life. And that means that I actually become a father the moment I know that we have a child. I know some of you feel that it starts with conception, but that's a lot to be thinking about every time I engage in physical activity. But for me, when I look at my child this time around, I was reminded that when we first came to know that we are going to be having a child, the same anxiety starts flooding in again, all over again. Like, will I have the time for my fourth child? Will I have the finances to keep to maintain the lifestyle that we desire? Will I even have that capacity to give to this fourth child? I mean, all the opportunities that we've given to the previous three. And so those things started flooding in again, and I realized that wow. And of course, the one that I think most men in Singapore will be familiar with is, at some point the gynecologist will start asking whether do you want to take the test to see if your child is fine, if he or she has any pre-existing conditions. So I think what I was thankful for was when we had the first child, I didn't know too much about it, so I kind of declined without knowing why I declined.
Wow.
And then when I started to appreciate the sanctity of life, when I see my child born, I realized that no, I wouldn't have given up this child even if I knew that he or she had a pre-existing condition. So very deliberately, for the next 3 kids, we intentionally just said no, and we just refused to know, because we wanted to accept the child as they are. We wanted to accept the child regardless of the circumstances, regardless of our financial situation, because we know and we are confident that we will find a way to make it work somehow.
I think that's about values, right? And I went through that also, whether I should take that up or not, and we decided not to. And it just boils down to our values. Why we, as you said, sanctity of life. You know, I think we should not judge others why they take that test, want to take that test. But I think one of the questions that before we become a father or if we have a child is about values, right? What kind of values we're going to teach the child? And that would be the first thing that we probably is the first test. You know,
I think taking the test for many, I would think it's just if there is a problem with the child, that will be born one day, they just want to be prepared. Maybe they want to do some research, to find out, okay, how am I going to handle this? What do I need to know now? And, get ready for then. So, yeah, so I think that's okay also. So taking the test or not is maybe not such a big issue, because if they want to just get ready, I think that's also being responsible.
So did you take the test?
When my first two kids were born, I don't think there were even such tests available.
Was that long ago?
Yes,
Okay.
nearly 30 years ago. So, the third one, I think it was available, but I can't remember if it was even brought up. So, never had to deal with this question. The only thing that we did was, I think, some kind of a scan of. No, I'm not talking about ultrasound. There's another kind. And so that's beyond that, nothing else. No other kind of testing that was done. Yeah. So another question to you is this. So your answer this first question is that from the time that you know that you are going to have a child, you already consider yourself a father. So that's a good answer. For me also, for a long time, it's like, well, the child is not born yet, so I'm not a father. I'm going to be a father. That's what I always tell people. I'm going to be a father.
State of denial.
State of denial, yeah, maybe, yeah. Or anticipation, yeah. Okay. How did you feel when you knew that you were going to be a father? Do you feel prepared? Many men, when I talk to, they have this question, can I do it? Can I be that kind of nurturing, involved father? Because that's kind of the standard today, and especially with Center for Fathering around and Dads for Life, that's the message we're pushing to the dads, and encouraging them to be involved, nurturing and all that. But at the back of many men's mind, fathers-to-be and fathers is, can I do it? And did you have that kind of self-doubt?
Oh, I think there was a lot of pressure on me, considering I'm working at with you at Center for Fathering.
I can understand.
Yeah, so I guess there are expectations about how I would manage it and all. But I think, and I thought with going into the fourth child, I thought I would be better prepared because I've got 3 kids experience and all. We've been through it. This is the 4th time I'm going through it. I thought I would have had most of the processes and all nailed. There'll be less anxiety. But the truth is there's actually a lot more anxiety. Because I'm familiar with the process, because I know what is coming up and I know the inherent risk in it. I started going into multiple loops of planning for all sorts of scenarios, contingencies. I found myself more tired, more busy planning for everything that's possible, and then I realized that I'm starting to worry about tomorrow and the day after and the day after, in addition to what I'm worrying about today. And that's when I felt that I needed to take a step back to just worry about the issues of today and leave the worries of tomorrow for tomorrow, because I believe that there's enough grace every day to settle all the things that happens. So I found that maybe I worried less before, because you can say ignorance is bliss. I didn't know what to expect, and so I just managed it along the way. But this time round, there was a lot more anxiety, and I knew that I had to intentionally curb that. In terms of the process, whether was it easier, I think I didn't find it a lot easier, because there are a few phases, right? Pre-birth, as you're preparing for the birth, there's that anxiety over being responsive to the moment the time comes. I need to make sure that when I work, I always have my wife, or at least I'm within that radius of responsiveness where I don't travel too far away from where she is, so I can respond to her. I have a network of people who can, manage the pickups of my three other children. If the two of us have to go into the labor ward. So there's all that preparation that needed to be done. And then when we actually got activated, I found myself in a flurry of activities. I found that, I fumbled in a couple of things. I forget to pick up the bag, I forget to bring this, bring that, go to the ward, start wondering, did I forget something? And then, but I think also with the preparedness, what helped somewhat was I was able to focus on my wife. Because I had all those things kind of squared away and thought about, I found that this time around, I could better, I had the additional capacity to focus on my wife's needs and support her through that labor process and thereafter.
It's interesting. You mentioned something, that network of people that you have. So who are they?
So I got colleagues involved, I got friends involved, I got family friends involved. So there is somebody to call for a specific activity. So like pickups, I had a list of people. Food wise, I had a list of people. Support, my own support, men's support. I had a few people that I could call in case I fumbled or I find I couldn't manage the situation.
So men out there, fathers to be, we are not alone.
Make sure you put that in your checklist.
Yeah, we're not alone. Don't be alone and be what do you call that? Thinking that this is only your challenge. Everyone also can play a part. I think everyone's only looking forward. Who don't like babies? Don't like to expect this cute little heavenly thing.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I think with one child, I think your hands are full already. With then more than one, it becomes even more challenging. And having to take care of the older kids while doing all the necessary things for the infant. That is sometimes a bit too much. Can feel too much for any pair of parents.
The thing is, you're talking about the focus on your wife, because it's always probably our mindset, right? The baby. We forget the very person who's going through the most painful thing ever in her life. Because my wife did tell me the pain is like you cannot describe. In fact, they did a test, experiment on men, and then put some kind of wire and simulate the pain of birth. I mean, giving birth. And apparently they just give just 10% or something, a low percent, and that man cannot tahan already. So we are strong. We are supposed to be strong. So what actually is missing in men that women have? At the same time, I'm also telling you that we're not saying that men inherently do not have this instinctive thing about being a mother, but giving birth is a different thing, right?
Yeah, I think the bond over the 9 months of carrying the baby within you makes it worthwhile and makes it bearable in that sense. I mean, the sensation of the pain and the level of the pain probably did not decrease, but just because of that, emotional tie and the bond with the child makes it all. It says, I'm prepared to go through this because, I've already created this bond with this new life. And so I guess that maybe makes it more bearable, a little bit bearable.
Yeah, I thought it was.
So what did you do to support your wife?
Well, I think before I came to that realization, I was fortunate that I had a chance to be reminded of my wife's sacrifice, not just through the labor, but also through her own lifestyle, through the cutbacks that she needed to make from her career and everything else that she wanted to. So you're right. I mean, moms are amazing. Moms will give everything. They will even give up their own life for the child just to make sure that the child comes out when push comes to shove, right? So I see my wife. I had a chance to see my wife give up the food that she likes, give up the lifestyle that she likes, give up so many things, and even now post labor, she has to put aside a lot of the things that she really liked doing, like Chinese. You cannot wash the hair, you cannot go out, you cannot eat certain food. Yeah, so she had to curb back, and just for the sake of being able to nurture the child. So that helps me to appreciate her all over again as a mother, and I guess as a wife. I I'm just fully appreciative of, the kind of support that she continues to give. So even though I'm on paternity leave, once in a while I kind of need to, touch base with work, or, have some people come over and provide updates and all. And I mean, she's been really, really gracious about it. And we find a way to not just look after the newborn, but also continue to share the responsibilities at home and with our kids. So I'm reminded again of my role as a husband, that I need to make sure that she feels loved, she feels supported. Even as she breastfeeds, she's fully supported. She gets the call on whether to stop breastfeeding or not, and I will not interfere in those decisions because, and I'll try to support her as best as I can.
Yeah, that's can be pressurizing. I've heard. I know. I've talked to new fathers about their wives. They were sharing, the publicity and the messaging out there, is breastfeeding is the best for your baby, and so it makes new mothers feel that if I don't do it, I'm not as responsible and a good mother. And so I think that's that's difficult to handle. So I'm glad that a few new fathers were able to tell their wives, whatever you choose, that's okay, because as long as the child is healthy, that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter what kind of milk you drink.
Yeah. I think you have to look at the condition of the wife, right? The mother.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, if it harms her further and psychologically she's not prepared, it will affect the quality of milk, I suppose, or even the
quantity, yes, and also the experience of nursing your baby. That's supposed to be a very intimate moment. But if you feel under pressure and stress, it spoils it, you know what I mean? All right. And I think babies are very sensitive also. They pick up on vibes like this. So if you're doing it unhappily, unwillingly, and feeling a lot of pressure, if the baby picks up on it, I'm not sure what it does to the child's mood and maybe even psychology and things like that.
So while women can breastfeed, right? Okay, I mean, for us, what is our role in terms of getting the emotional touch, with our baby? What do you do? Yeah,
I think firstly, I recognize that my wife's role is to nurture the baby. My role is to sayang my wife as best as I can, so that she's good, she feels good, baby will feel good. If she feels anxious, if she feels unsupported, baby will feel the same anxiety. So I make sure that I even in the case of breastfeeding, this time round I was fortunate that I was at least I had the hindsight to make sure that she had good support from the lactation nurses. She could get it going, and then when we get home, she has the same support. She gets enough rest. She gets enough nutrients to facilitate the milk formation. And then when the child needs to be away from her, so that the child gets to rest, she gets to rest, and she gets to the time to let the milk kick in again. I have to hold the child so that he doesn't have the urge to keep suckling. So I have to do whatever I can to make sure that my wife is well rested. She has time for the milk to come in, and the feeds are regular. And so that's the kind of support I think is practical for most men. There's always the urge to, as our child would want to, as our child grows faster than the rate of milk production, the need to supplement it and all. I think that really is the call of my wife. And I think as a husband, I need to reassure her that, her worth as a woman, her worth as a wife, as a mom is not compromised because of her not being able to keep up with the demands of the child. And I need to prevent myself from and I need to watch my words actually. I find that words make a lot of difference and can be taken in so many different ways. So I remember for my first child, we had a huge argument over when should we put in the formula, because the milk is not coming in enough. And I realized how insensitive those words were, and how my wife actually carried those hurts for quite some time. So with this fourth child, I'm quite glad that to me it's another opportunity for me to redeem myself as a husband, so that I get to be supportive.
Yeah. Talk about redeeming. I got to make a confession here, and I think my wife listening, she will like it. Cannot.
Can. Confession is good for the soul.
Okay, so I remember I have 4 children, right? But the third one, I weren't there at that point of birth. I mean, we both of us know that yes, I'm supposed to be there, but because the third one, there was a delay. All right, that I think it was more than like 40 hours or something. Wait, it was still difficult to come out. So I went home to get things, to wash up. During that moment, somehow I fell asleep because so I was so tired, because I remembered like 2 nights we have to wait, and then suddenly I got a call from the nurse or something. Daddy,
Congratulations.
I mean, it's about to come out, I haven't come out lah. So by the time I reached the hospital, the labor ward, I already heard the baby cry. I think just came out. So until today, my wife told me, that moment, you were not there. So fathers out there, how tired you are. We have been through, NS, most of us. I think we can tahan lah a bit. No, just stretch a bit, and you can never want to miss that moment when your baby, is there, because I think the pain also is the most there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel good now.
Okay, that's good. That's good. You're forgiven.
Thank you.
Actually, not from me, and not important whether it comes from me. It's more
Thank you,
important
Pastor.
it comes from your wife.
You have our support, man. We've
Thank
all
you.
been there.
Well, you were at home to do something practical, maybe to pick up some stuff and things like that. But you happen to fall asleep. Yeah. All right. Another question is, what would you say is the hardest thing of being a new father?
Wow. I'm still trying to figure that out. The hardest thing is, for me today, is as I reflect upon my journey with the 4 kids, with these 4 kids, yeah. And like I say, this whole reminder about what being a father is all about, it hit me because as I reflect, I realize I start to see the gaps. And those gaps start to come in, and I think my biggest challenge is to steel myself against succumbing to guilt and shame for not doing enough as a dad, or not finding out, not getting equipped better as a dad, not getting enough support as a dad, and not becoming a dad to my kids. So when I had this, when I was carrying my newborn recently, I look at him and I'm like, wow, this feels good. This whole excitement about becoming a new dad all over again. Like, I want to cherish you, be very patient with you, very gracious with you, be very loving and unconditional love to you and all. Then suddenly I start thinking about, my other 3 kids. In the busyness of the last 11 years, I started getting harsher and harsher with my older kids. I started to be less gracious. I started to get more impatient. And suddenly I realized that, wow, what I'm feeling towards the baby and what I want to do for the baby is very different from how I'm going to treat my kids the moment I get home. Like, have you done your homework? Why is it like that? Why did the teacher say this? Why didn't you fold the laundry? Why didn't you clean up after yourself? And then I find that I get caught up in all the other roles at home, like, I'm the guy who does the laundry. I clean the floor. I clean up after my kids when they don't do it. I make their beds when they forget to do it. I make sure that they have food to bring to school. I make sure that they're up on time to get to school on time. And when they're back, they get their homework done. I play all those roles and I forgot that I am daddy to them. So that realization hit me, and I realized that, wow, I kind of need to maintain this moment, this feeling of what I have for the newborn towards my other 3 kids, because I need to love them the same way. I need to treat them the same way. I need to be daddy to them. And I think the hardest thing is becoming daddy to all of them all the time, and not just when I see a baby. And
Oh, that's a very good point and very powerful sharing. Thank you for that. I think it's a good reminder, because as our children grow up, our hearts, our attitudes towards them do change. Maybe our expectations of them have increased, and sometimes it increased a little bit too much. Our bars suddenly go up for them, and they are always not able, or quite often not able, to meet our standards and our expectations. And So it upsets us. We get frustrated, and sometimes we keep record of the things that they have not done well, and so we play that record over and over again in our minds, and we say, "Oh, this child, he's always like that. He's always doing this," and that really triggers us. So I told fathers, I said, "Do you still remember a time your child learned to walk? Did you conduct any lessons before that? Did you set a date for them to be able, to start walking?" He said, "No." So one day they just stood up, right? And then after a few seconds, they just fell back on their bum, And what did you do? Well, we celebrated. I said, "That's right." And then a few days later, they stood up again. And then now they took one step. Did you say to your child, "What? Only one step?" But we are so gracious, we are so forgiving, we celebrate every progress, every bit of progress. I said, why aren't we doing the same today, when our kids are 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old? Why aren't we celebrating every progress? Because we are always growing, even for us as fathers. We had this episode, That's in Progress.
Yeah.
So we have never, ever arrived. We're always progressing. We should be progressing. We should be improving ourselves, And so we celebrate whatever our children do, but instead we catch them doing wrong more than we catch them doing right, Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. It all triggered all this in my mind when you said that.
Yeah. I think the word is mindful, right? I mean, we tend to be automatic, whenever we deal with people, including our children. And usually, for example, the older child is expected to do more, to be more responsible for the younger one. Well, that teaches a lot of value in terms of taking care of your sibling, others, and so on. But at the same time, you must also, take care of their emotions, Because, I mean, this is through experience, My elders always think that, we are giving more so-called leeway, and flexibility to the younger one. You should be more tough because she has gone through that toughness. Because as a first, when you were young, we had a first child, really had certain standards, that you want them to meet. As you go along, you're getting relaxed. And, when you become grandfather, probably it's even worse. All right, you sayang your grandson or granddaughter, too much. That's what I always heard. I don't have the experience yet, but that's that's what I hear. So how do we deal with that? The different treatment. We cannot say that. I think it's too idle to say that everyone can be treated equally. But how do you balance that? Yeah.
I think it's important for me today to have this constant renewal of mind. It's just like, starting the day fresh, or every day I should be a new dad, every day I should be a new husband. The burdens of the past gets forgiven, gets forgotten, and then we just kind of start on a new slate. Just like our kids. I mean, no matter how much I scold my kids, the next day they look at me when they wake up and they'll be like, "Daddy," and everything is fine. The whole world is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a whole world in anticipation.
They have a shorter memory.
They have a much, or I think they choose not to dwell on it.
Yeah.
Whereas I'll be like, last night we had a tough time. Today I want to see what are you going to do about it. I'm like, wait, why am I imposing this? I kind of need to hold back because I want to be celebrating every day with them.
So I asked you what was the most difficult thing, hardest thing in being a new father. What is the best thing, the most enjoyable thing to you about being a new father?
Wow, it's that vision of hope. When I see my newborn, suddenly there's that excitement, there's a whole new life ahead for you. There's a whole new life ahead for us. I have no idea how our family is going to, the dynamics is going to turn out. I have no idea where we're headed and all. But all those things don't matter because there's just that excitement, that joy, things are just going to be okay and all. And then every small development with this newborn, it's not just me noting it. My wife notes it. The rest of the kids note it. They'll be like, "Hey, look, Samuel is doing this. Hey, look, Samuel is something. Hey, look, he smiled. Hey, look, he's looking at this." And then we'll be like, wow, and everyone just rejoice. So suddenly there's joy, there's hope, there's this whole excitement of this newness. And and I think that's the joy that every baby brings into the family. And I want that to continue not just with the newborn, but with every single child. So Parkson, you're right. I mean, every child whenever there's something to celebrate, worthy to celebrate about. In fact, I'm not even sure how I'm going to define worthiness. But anything that we should celebrate, we should just celebrate everyone as an individual. We want to celebrate their unique identity. We want to celebrate the things that they do. We also want to celebrate them for who they are in the family. Yeah, and that was that thing that became really apparent to me. And now that we're in the midst of having this really joyful moment. I mean, yes, there's anxiety, there's frustration, and everything else, but that joy and the hope and that newness of a new day coming in just carries us through a lot of the existing circumstances that we are battling. I mean, no family is perfect. We still have our conflicts. We still have our work issues, our challenges. We still have the wider family issues. We still have our kampong issues in the community, neighbors doing something that we don't like and all. I still face the tough challenges of commuting in a day or even driving if I have to, and all that anguish out there. But yet, coming home, there's that excitement, there's that anticipation of just wanting to be home to see what new thing am I going to get from the newborn and from the other kids and even from my wife. Some newness even in our relationship, in our marriage, not just with the family but just between us. We get to see something new about one another.
Okay. I think one of the last questions to ask is about paternity leave. What should be the attitude of fathers when it comes to paternity leave? I mean, I know people sometimes they overwork. They think that your priority goes to work, and you're given this paternity leave. I mean, it used to be lesser than now. I remember it was
during my time was
just a
just
few
2 days.
Yeah, now it's what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Wow. So things have changed for the better, and how you should take advantage of that, Brian?
Wow. I have a couple of views about paternity leave because I mean the dads that we engage and all, we hear the stories about those who want to take but cannot take, those who took it but don't know what to do with it, and those who just felt that they didn't need it at all. So maybe let's start with myself. I wanted to take it because I wanted to be home to support my wife. But at the same time, I also know that my wife is well supported in the home. We have both our moms coming over to support us. We have also engaged a confinement nanny to kind of support my wife and to cook the nutritional soup to help to support her with breastfeeding and all. And I realized that actually I could afford not to take it because my wife was also very supportive of me just continuing the work that I'm doing and not take too much time away. But at the same time, I kind of want to take the time out to really adjust myself, to acclimatize myself to this change. Because there's going to be a change in the routine. I need to take on the bulk of sending the kids to school, bringing the kids back. I also wanted my colleagues to have that space to plan for my absence because I'm going to be a little less responsive even if I try to be around for them. But I know that I will be less responsive. And I didn't want them to be subject to that. So I think I'm only being fair to my colleagues for those who need to take over some of the functions and the roles that I have with certain stakeholders. So that gives them that space to really plan for it. And then for my children, I think it's I'm also showing them that I'm willing to take time out from whatever I have to do to be with them, to be with mommy, to be with the newborn, just to let them know that this is important enough for me to take time out. So not am I only taking paternity leave, I'm also taking half-day leaves to the end of the month, this month, just to make sure that we get some of this acclimatization of routines and all done right. And for myself, it's really taking that time out to really focus on reviewing all the new lessons that I'm picking up, new lessons as a new dad again, new lessons as a new husband again, and also new lessons as a son again, because with the bundle of joy in our home, we need to allow the rest of the wider family to celebrate it in the midst of this pandemic, right? So we got to celebrate responsibly. So it's about arranging for different families to come and visit us, and to allow them into our lives to see this, and to allow my parents to have enough time with their new grandchild, without losing sight that they have another 3 grandchild that's also wanting their attention. So just as I make sure that I give them enough attention, I have to support my dad and my mom and my in-laws to also ensure that, in fact, they know that they will spread the thing. It's just me trying to be mat nenek, trying to remind them that you need to spread the joy, spread the attention amongst them.
Mm.
So you're saying that additional half days, is that part of the paternity or is extra that you use on your annual leave?
It's in addition. So I'm taking
Oh,
an
okay.
additional 2 weeks of half day leaves just to tide through this period.
I suppose you have been preparing for that, keeping your leave, for that, because I don't know, is it because it's COVID, you got extra leave?
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been in this corporate or even working like this where sometimes you really want to jaga your leave, and you use it for your best and moments. So I suppose for you,
Yep.
this is the best.
Yeah, this is the best
yeah.
moment. I mean, that's what my leave is for. My leave is to be spent with my family and all. So this is as good as it gets for me. And I think I'm privileged, very privileged, in fact, to be able to do that because of the strong support from the organization, from my board of directors, my colleagues who come in to support. I even have a board director who has been delivering food to my kids and my children and I every alternate day, just so we don't get tired of the confinement food that my wife is enjoying. I have colleagues just popping in unexpectedly with all sorts of non-work related news just to make sure that I'm okay and all. Yeah, so I am thankful.
So the organization really lives up to its expectations and culture, I suppose.
Yeah, Center for New Fathering.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we hold one another accountable for the state of our marriage, the quality of relationships that we have, and who we are as dads, and to make sure that we don't burn out in the whole process.
Yeah, very important. I think it's an ideal organization for fathers to work in. I mean, not all places are friendly, but I suppose you also have met organizations that are friendly to fathers, and you do have such organizations or program, to evaluate and promote that, right?
Yeah, in fact, I think Pakistan and I have come across organizations that are even more doing way more than what we're doing. They have a month-long paternity leave. They have all sorts of flexible work arrangements. They have all sorts of concessions, and some of them even provide beginning parenting, some fathering programs for their employees.
So just maybe another question related to that, because I heard some people say you give all these so-called privileges, benefits. You hope that the employees become happier, right, and hopefully become more productive. Instead of they think that they are away from work and it affects the bottom line and so on. What do you think of this kind of attitude or this kind of views?
I think providing the support for dads to thrive, not just as leaders at the workplace, but even leaders in their home, has a lot of benefits. Because once we get this whole work-life integration done well, you find that the dads are not only are they more motivated to excel in their roles at home and at the workplace, they have more support, and the kind of ethics, like responsibility, accountability that they have at home, they bring it to the workplace and all. So I would like to think, and I think I've seen a lot of examples where they start performing a lot better. They are a lot more engaged, and I think for organizations, hey, who doesn't want a motivated, loyal, and highly productive and dynamic person? I mean, you heard of organizations where you tell your people, and I've worked in organizations like that where your home, the issues at home is your own puasa. You leave it at home, you don't bring to work, right? You don't let it affect work. But can you really do that? Can you really not bring the issues at home to work? Can you really not bring the issues of work back home? We have to acknowledge that you can't just have filters, or you can't just separate these things. There's got to be a nice integration, and we got to be able to excel and thrive in both areas, without the guilt, without the shame, without the frustration, because there is a way to balance it all.
So the new normal is even a reality, right? And you spoke about it. in
Yeah,
some
my concern
episodes,
is that we're slowly moving back to the
Yeah.
old normal.
No, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this quite a bit. That since now we have not defined a new normal, let's define it for ourselves. Otherwise, we will easily want to go back to the old normal, and then we will all kick ourselves in the butt because we said we missed the opportunity, to change things. But well, if it's not too late for you, please do that. I think what I want to say is this: that paternity leave is very, very important. I think I really appreciate that right now everyone has 2 weeks. But from the survey that we've done with new fathers, Center for Fathering has done, the responses, the reasons why many new fathers are not taking paternity leave, are a few, and in not any order of importance or anything. They're afraid that they might jeopardize their career when they're away from their jobs for 2 weeks. That's one. And second most common reason is they feel helpless at home, and I can imagine why, because women are, like it or not, seen as experts when it comes to childcare, right? So you have the wife, and then the wife might bring the mother in, and then they might even have a confinement nanny or someone. So you have at least 2 women in the home taking care of the newborn, and so the man feels, what am I doing here?
Useless.
Am I even needed? Yeah,
Feel that I'm like a lamppost.
Correct, and so because men is like that, they need to feel needed and useful. Otherwise, they say, if I'm not needed here, I might as well go somewhere when I'm more needed, and that's the office. And so, that's one of the reasons for most companies, the utilization of the paternity leave has been very low, and so I think we need to help new fathers see that, well, you might not feel that you're needed, but there's something that you need to do, and it's very beneficial for you, and that is this paternity leave. The way I put it is, it kickstart your fathering attachment and fathering role with a newborn, because it's an intensive time where you spend time with that child. Especially what research has found is the skin-to-skin contact. When you hold the child, when you bathe the child, when you change the diapers, any kind of skin-to-skin contact is what creates that attachment and that bonding, So a lot of fathers also struggle. Says, wow, I talk to the child, but he doesn't talk back to me. What kind of relationship is that? Wait till the child is able to speak, then I will engage with my child. I said, no, you don't wait till then, because we don't know when that will happen. That could be 1 year, 2 years from now, right? But right now, that attachment can still be formed simply by that skin-to-skin contact and that face-to-face interaction, okay? Where you begin to notice certain features about your baby's face, it says, oh, your eyes, you have mommy's eyes, you have my nose, and things like that. Things like that you notice warms your heart and draws you closer to your newborn. So there's so many benefits to taking that maternity leave. Now, you don't have to take the full 2 weeks straight. You can take 2-3 days and go back to work for a day, or a few half days here and there. So I'm sure there's different options, but just take it.
Yeah. So maybe we should have just one episode on how to utilize your paternity leave. Why not?
Well, just email Bryan Tan.
Yeah, I thought it's an interesting topic.
He will give you a manual on that.
Oh, in fact, I have to confess that even though I said I was on paternity leave, I've still been working on a daily basis, but finding a good balance of that, and also with the approval of my wife.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. There is a way to work things out. So the things that we are fearful of, I can understand, because I think most companies still do not have that kind of conducive environment and corporate culture where it's really, the employees, the fathers in that company don't feel supported, and they're afraid. Maybe it's not said, right? Somebody just got to say it. Yeah. Please take your paternity leave. So instead of asking, are you taking your paternity leave? Maybe the bosses should ask, why aren't you taking your paternity leave?
Yeah. I think this must be said, and otherwise, they brought of you call it, expectations unsaid, and actually, if you don't say all these things, people may behave wrongly.
That's right. They're afraid to do
yeah.
anything outside the norm, and
Yeah.
they will look at what others have done and
Yes.
says, "Oh, he didn't take it, so I shouldn't be the first, because if I'm the first, then I'm going to be marked for life." Yeah, so that those are concerns, real concerns, which we totally understand. But that's why I say there's work to be done. And I think Center for Fathering, we're also trying to reach out to companies, and we do have some programs and schemes that we encourage them to be more supportive of fathers. Well, I think that's about all the questions. I mean, we do have more.
We have more. You can stay for another hour.
Yeah.
You don't mind.
We have the show after the show.
Yeah. Really, thank you, Bryan, for coming and being so sincere and open. And I think quite a number of powerful views that you had shared with us. Appreciate.
Thank you, Hafiz. Yeah, thank you, Pakson.
Thank you, and have a nice day. Now you have to go back to your family, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yes, back to supporting my wife and the kids and everyone else.
All right. All the best. Enjoy. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.